Star Radio. Today's May the 1st. As promised, basically we've got a Martin Hossack from DWP Corruption.
Hi Paul, how you doing, mate?
Alright, great to have you, mate. Okay, now what we're going to talk about today is, as promised, the corruption with the Department of Work and Pensions and all the sort of related topics to that. Now, because of the importance of this interview, instead of it just having it on the radio, we're also having this filmed as well, and hopefully this will be all over the internet in the next couple of days. So what I need from you guys is any questions that you have, please phone in as usual. The seriousness of these topics has to be listened to. I need you to take note, and the idea of this as well is to get this out to as many people as possible. Okay. Really, the timing of this couldn't be better with the general elections up and running almost in the next few weeks, and everything that sort of links into that. We'll be covering topics such as common purpose, as I did promise as well. So with my guest, he's spent a few years now uncovering the corruption that he's received firsthand himself, and it sort of led you on to this path now, and this is why we are here today with some new findings, and there's a lot of information that Martin would like to discuss and basically put out there.
What a fantastic introduction. Anybody would think you'd rehearsed it, mate.
I know.
Right, first of all, I'd like to give a big thank you to Paul for welcoming us here into the Manchester area and having us here at his studio to discuss this topic that I think is most important with the view of the elections coming up and people really understanding exceptionally what the corruption is within the Labour government, and not just the Labour government but the Conservatives and I suppose any government within this country. But the most important issue here is that we look at the situation for what it is, and we look at the unfairness, we look at the MP's expenses, we look at various points of views of common purpose, the DWP, with the ESA benefits, etc, etc, etc. What we're going to do today is we're going to have a talk through an important topic that I believe has been sheltered for a good many years, and this is something called the Consolidation Fund. What is the Consolidation Fund? The Consolidation Fund was formed in 1787 by William Pitt, who was then the Prime Minister. And in a nutshell, it's a bank account that's for the government, for the council tax and other types of taxes that are presented to the government in form of payment that's actually put through the government books. And the idea of this consolidation fund is purely to pay off the UK's debt. What concerns me more than anything is the types of money that go into that fund and how the debt is paid. A lot of the money is unethical in the way that it's taken into the fund, and unfortunately where unethics are concerned it always has implications of the UK public, and one of those implications is the child support agency with single parent dads. I'm closely connected to Deadbeat for Dads with Morris and Sherry Burnett, who are a fantastic couple who are our sister site, and between us we do a lot of the research ourselves and come up with information that's most important for you guys to listen to. But I'm going to start off with the Consolidation Fund. As I've said, I've told you what it is. We know how long it's been around for, but it's another breeding ground for corruption. And where the breeding ground for corruption is concerned, I think over the last 12 months, with the experiences that we've had with the MPs, you know, my opinion, like yours, is they should be jailed, they should be given bread and water. If it was you or I as a member of the public, then obviously, you know, this is what would happen in the real world. But we know that's not going to happen, because we know that they're part of Jack Straw's judicial army of corrupt emperors who are going to get away with murder. He's going to be whitewashed, he's going to be pushed under the carpet. And I think this is one of the most important aspects that we need to remember next week with the elections coming up. Within this week, we've had experience again of good old Gordon Brown, the one-eyed, I'll call him monster because we're on here, who showed his true colours with the young lady by calling her a bigot in the Manchester area, as it happens. Unbelievable with what this guy has actually done. And my guess is that he went into this lady's house after, for the 45-minute break, I reckon he swallowed a couple of cups of coffee, and I reckon he probably allegedly offered this lady 200 grand out of this consolidation fund. I can't see how the press have kept it quiet. Bearing in mind, the press, as we know, are full of Masonic common purpose and Freemasonry. But I'm going to come over to Paul now and give him a chance to ask some questions, because as you see, I love my own voice.
No, that's fine. You mentioned Jack Straw now. Jack Straw is a name that seems to be popping up through all these topics in the background, and again, it's just a name that's there that gets mentioned. I mean, from when I saw Jack Straw a few years ago, telling people through the news how to deal with criminals by giving them a good telling off, pointing the finger, that type of thing. So he comes across as this friendly chap that's got best interests for everybody, but yet at the back of this, you do seem to pick up that this chap's name pops up all the time.
I think where Jack Straw's concerned, you know, this can become more of a comical topic rather than taking it serious. Let's look at his background and let's look at what he's done. Let's look at his family, his children. You've seen the latest things over the last 12 or 18 months that have been in the papers and on the press about the drugs issues. And, you know, there's been certain things that have gone on within his family, his own children, I believe, that haven't exactly been ethical. Now, to say that this man stands next door to the Prime Minister, you would have thought his ethics would have been 100%, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But what we do know is, where Jack Straw's concerned, ethics have gone out the window. It's a buy me now club that he owns. And you know, as far as I'm concerned, the judicial system that's in place, Jack Straw is ultimately responsible for. Now, what we have to look at here is where the judicial system's concerned in Scotland. Part of that consolidation fund are the people out there aware that if you Google consolidation fund, what you will find is that the UK makes a payment to Scotland into a fund to look after all, and I say all, the judicial system. So it looks after the corrupt lawyers, it looks after the Law Society, who we know are blatantly corrupt and should be blown off the face of the earth, because we just know that when you're in these people's hands, it's making money for solicitors. Now, looking at the solicitors, what are the solicitors? They're common purpose based, which makes you laugh. So part of Julian Middleton's army again, put in place purely to screw the public. So where we've got compensation claims, we've got people that have been hurt at work, it goes through a corrupt judicial system with Jack Straw and the army, and what tends to happen is it then goes down into the solicitors and into the psychiatrists, etc., and doctors, until the problems ironed out and these people are screwed into the system, coming out with injuries and not getting any compensation. This was my own experience. But what we're going to do now, we're going to have a 5-minute interval whereby we can sup a cup of coffee, and if you like, if you've got any questions and answers, I'm going to give you a few minutes to phone in, and if I can do anything to help, I'll take your name, number off air, and obviously get back to you.
Can I just say on that as well, Martin, we do seem to have a number of callers in there, so thank you for that. Don't be, with the subjects that we're discussing, don't be scared to phone in, because basically the fact that there's a amount of people that I can obviously see listening is, you know, is great, but don't let that stop you phoning in and asking as many questions as possible.
Please do so.
Okay.